You are listening to a podcast created by the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. Our mission is to help you understand your world better through geography. This podcast addresses the idea of distance decay and addresses the Minnesota Geography Standard for grades 9 through 12, specifically asking about geospatial questions, Standards Code 93121. Our Distance Decay presenters are Matt Karlstrom, a master geography teacher and a leader of geography workshops from Deer River, Minnesota. I am Fred Kunze, a member of the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. Today we're going to hear from Matt Karlstrom, who's a teacher at Deer River, Minnesota, who he says is at 47 degrees north and 93 degrees west. You can look it up on a map. Now, Matt, today we're going to talk about a special concept. What is the name of that concept?
That concept, Fred, is distance decay.
I think that's an appropriate concept for somebody who lives that far north up in Deer River. Can you define distance decay for us?
The concept of distance decay is the farther away a good or service is, the less likely you are to make use of it or to go to it.
Okay. So how do people think about distance decay? Do you have some practical thoughts about that?
Well, up in the Great White North of Minnesota, up in Deer River, we're a small town, about 700 people. We got a subway and a few gas stations, but really, when people shop, they got to drive to Grand Rapids for their Target and their Cub Foods and Walmart, and et cetera. So, they can still go to Duluth or to Bemidji to shop, but since going to Grand Rapids is so much closer, that's where they go. The idea being that both Duluth and Bemidji are going to offer more goods and services, but they're also significantly farther away.
And you're thinking that geographers think that this is a generalized idea that you can apply this concept of distance decay in cities and places all over the world with lots of different economic activities and things like that.
Well, we can apply in Deer River. We can apply it how it's different for people who live in urban areas versus outstate areas. We can apply it to people who are subsistence farmers that need to walk to get water and supplies. They're going to keep their travel distance as short as possible. If you're going to have to carry two buckets of water every day, you don't want to have that distance be very far.
Sure, and I can see how, if you understand distance decay, it does answer some questions about where people are and where certain kinds of services and activities are located with regard to them.
One of the things to, I think, bear in mind too is, if you think about distance decay and you like to go to McDonald's or to Burger King or to a supermarket or Holiday or even to a Walmart store, all of those organizations apply the concept of distance decay. They know people are going to drive a certain distance, are willing to travel a certain distance to make good use of their store or the products that they sell. We know that for Walmart, for example, it's about 45 minutes. So up in the northern part of the state of Minnesota, you can look and create a map and put circles around the Walmart stores, and those circles will overlap at about 45 miles away.
I've heard that major corporations actually have teams of people before they establish buildings. They figure out, will people drive to this location and what kind of a market will we have from that? So that's
exactly right, Fred.
Job for geographers. You don't necessarily have to teach or be a professor. There are other things out there like
practical application.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting about distance decay, and I'm thinking about time span now. Distance decay must have been in existence 100 years ago when there were horses, and well, more than 100 for horses, but for quite a while ago. And how about now? Has distance decay, the idea of it, changed any? Do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I think we live in a transitional time because technology and the access to technology has lessened somewhat the impact of distance decay in wealthy countries. Cars are faster, they can go farther, they can go there faster, planes, trains, automobiles, all this stuff get people and goods from here to there at a faster rate. 100 years ago, if you're having to go someplace by horse and buggy, it was a big deal, to go the 25 miles to town. Now, my kids drive from high school over to over to Grand Rapids to go out to eat and to go to and to go to shows. Whereas 100 years ago, that was a horse and that was a day. The example I use now is we talk about this in class, is to go to the cities is a big deal for kids up in Deer River. It's 2 or 3 times a year, and they'll spend a whole weekend here because they're going to drive 4+ hours each way. So you're going to lose a whole day just making the transportation.
Well, it's not just time. At the price of gas today, that's a fairly significant
and meals and the whole thing. That's right.
Investment. So that makes a lot of sense. So you're also saying distance decay has a different impact on whether you live rural or live urban.
And I believe that to be true, yes.
Okay. Well, finally, once you teach your kids the idea of distance decay, are there any things you do with your kids, a mapping activity or anything like that have them apply this?
Well, one of the things I do, and this is a non-text solution, but is I give a piece of paper and I have them draw out a map of where they go and how far it is from their house, and where they most commonly go to get goods and services. How far is their family willing to travel to get goods and services? And then I extend that ring. How often do you go to certain locations? For us, it'd be Duluth or Bemidji or coming down to the Mall of America. The farther away those places are, how likely are you to go there? So they sit down with their mom and dad and they talk about it, and so it's a nice way for them to apply the information that they've learned. And I think people they understand intrinsically the concept of distance decay.
That's great. That's a great activity, and it sounds like it would be fairly easy for a teacher to implement in their classroom and for a variety of grade levels.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think Fred, we can apply the concept of distance decay to these MAGEs to say that we have during the summer. The vast majority of the people who come down to participate are within about a 45-minute drive of coming to the Twin Cities. Once you get beyond that 45-minute loop, chances are you're not going to come. I mean, I'm the exception that proves the rule.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Well, Matt, I want to thank you for your input on the idea of distance decay. It's an interesting geographic idea that helps us explain where things are, and that's part of being geography. And thank you very much, Matt. Hope you enjoy the rest of your summer.
I will. Thank you, Fred. Have a great day.
You have been listening to a production of the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. Background music is courtesy of Jim Hogue of Decorah, Iowa. The Minnesota Alliance is a non-profit group of educators and other parties who are interested in promoting an enhanced understanding of our world through improved geographic literacy.